Hello there, welcome to the VOD. There should be timestamps. I'm going to be faffing about a little bit at the start, so you might want to use the timestamps to skip that. With that said, let's go live. I think that's the right title, isn't it? Let's go. Hello, Alex. Are we actually live? And is Alex actually here? Not hearing anything back from Twitch yet. It definitely looks like my mic's working. If I wave my hand in front of the camera, is that... Wait, just on a really long delay? No, my hand is there. Okay. And yet no sound. I'm going to refresh my stream manager. Alright. Let's see if I can hear myself now. Or if there's still a problem. Also, Alex, can you hear me? You can hear me loud and clear, and yet I can't hear myself. That's weird. Oh, I see why. Oh, sorry. 1 moment. Okay, one giant sneeze aside. Yeah, I see what's happened. My desktop audio is on the microphone has a speaker output, and so whenever I plug the microphone in, it switches. Hopefully that's going to be better. Yep, there we go. Oh, right, okay. Let's get those pings sorted out then, eh? Alright. And we have the chat's working on slobs and everything. And pings have been pung. I think that's the main thing. Right. I am going to see if I can finish this can of energy drink while people file in from the pings. That's one chug. There we go. Right. Okay, well, I don't want to faff around too much because the plan was to make this relatively short. So I'll probably just get going in a moment. Yeah, let's get going. I'll explain what I'm doing, and then I'll explain again in a minute if need be. The moment I stand up, the postcode is in shadow because I'm between the light and the postcode. Hello, Alice. Yeah. Alright, well. What we've got here is we've got actually 4 sticks of DDR2, so there's one in there, there's 2 loose there, then this, there's 1 stick of DDR2 in there, and then there's a couple of FB DIMMs which I'm not going to be able to test. So the plan is I'm going to test these. They came from eBay. I haven't plugged them in yet, so we'll see if they work, and then we'll see how they do, maybe with a bit of quick post testing, but I'm probably not going to go too far. So this is the first one. I think it's 512 megabit Micron B. That's based on the fact that it's a 1 gig stick, and we've got ICs on both sides, and just the shape of the package. The PCB is interesting. I haven't... I'm using the stream to align my hand, that's never going to work. Yeah. It's an interesting PCB. Yeah, straight from Scan. It's got the Scan label there. Also, hello Obscure Paradox. But yeah, as far as I know, this PCB is the worst DDR2 PCB in existence, but we'll find out. Not to immediately insult you or anything. Sorry, the most cost-effective PCB, I should be saying. Right, I've got no idea what is in this CD drive, so... Wait, where's the... There we are. Have I got that one at the back? There we go. So let's fire that up, see if we can get into BIOS and then see where we go from there. E1. That's not a good start. Maybe it needs a moment. It might be advisable to have a fan on the memory, but a fan isn't going to, you know, be the difference between posting and not posting, so... That's still E1. Alright, let's kill power. Try again. Maybe the board has overclock settings loaded. Nope. Still E1. Okay. That's fine. This is where we start trying different DIMM slots. And that is why I don't immediately set up a fan. But I also have no idea where I left the fan, because I didn't prepare that. Ah, D3, that's promising. I did that massive sneeze just before starting and I really need to blow my nose now, sorry. I'm just going to mute myself for a moment while that fails to post. Alright. Reset. Still D3. Kill power, start up again. So, bottom end 512 megabit Micron B stick, not looking good so far. Where's my clear CMOS jumper? Let's try clearing CMOS. Also, I should really, given that it's not posting, I don't know, this seems like a more useful view. I'll just raise the camera up a little bit there as well. Okay, well, let's try a different slot again. Well, we're back to E1. Obscure Paradox says not using black slots. I started with the outermost slot and I've been moving inwards with little success. Alright, if it doesn't work in any of them, what I might do is try cleaning it. But I'm thinking I'll run through all of them, and then that had me going for a minute. As I was saying, I might run through all of them first, or I don't know, I can just rub it with a tissue. The humidity is lower than I'm happy with it being. Just like touching all of the metal I can. Right, let's just see, is that a little bit, really doesn't look like it was that bad, to be honest. I'll give that one more go. This is the only slot it didn't E1 in. So I'm going to try this slot again. Now it's been cleaned. Well, oh, and now it is E1ing. Lovely. Okay, well. Deeper says fat bodies. No. Well, they're known as wide bodies, or people seem to be calling them thick bodies. But yeah, fat bodies are like the same width, but they're like full height. Whereas these are wide, but they're quite squat. Anyway, since that's not working, let's move along to this, which, oh, I need to be lower half of the camera. But yes, this, as you might be able to tell, is PSC. It's not going to focus on that, is it? There we are, there's some focus. So it's PSC with actual PSC markings. I think based on the package it's PSC 1 gigabit revision C. I know it's 1 gigabit density, and I've got that the wrong way around. Basic E1 PCB, by the way, if you're wondering. That's the right way around now, isn't it? Yeah. Aha. D5. That's a good sign. Hype from hype, yes. Why am I not getting it? Oh my goodness me. The monitor's off. You know, when I was having, those of you in my Discord server, I mentioned I was having issues with that 740 the other day, like in particular issues with not getting a display from it. I left the fucking monitor turned off. Okay, well I'll have to give that another look at some point. Ah, right, okay. So currently what I have in there is actual Memtest. Which is mainly distinct from Memtest by the inclusion of a giant Pepe the Frog. Given that there's a no frog posting rule in the Discord server, it would seem unfair to frog post on stream, so let's put regular Memtest86 Plus in there instead. Right. Defaults. Exit and save changes. Also, I need to check what CPU this is, but I think Memtest will tell me. But yeah, so while that's going, let's fire up Streamlabs, log in. Hunter 2 and right, CloudBot commands. Oh, that's going to take forever because it needs to like go through post for the SATA adapters and everything. And the CPU is a Pentium E5200. Right. So I'll add that to the rig command. Confirm. Alright. Hopefully that works now. It does. Although it's still weird how CloudBot has like these random characters on the start of the first command. There's probably a bug in there somewhere. Possibly a security hazard. Right, I need to move some of this around, don't I? Because you can't see the timings, and that's not ideal. So let's move our postcode down there. Let's move our camera down there. And now... Hold on. Is that a fucking Hynix SPD? What the fuck? That's interesting. That's really interesting, because I could have sworn Raspberry Hex mentioned something about Hynix and like Elpida or PowerChip having something in common with DDR2. Fascinating. While that runs Memtest, I'm just going to take a screenshot, crop it down to get rid of all of the, you know, slobsy stuff. What the fuck? Why is my stick with PSC marked ICs showing up as Hynix OEM? Right. I think that's a fair question, isn't it? Anyway, this stick is clearly functional. Rather than making you all sit through just watching Memtest run, I need a fan. I'll get into BIOS and then... Ah, there it is. Is that on properly? I don't think that's on properly. Hold on. Is that right? Yeah, okay, we're good. Plug that in. Here we go. Right, let's see what this stuff can actually do. So, what am I looking for? I'm looking for onboard devices, aren't I? Disable the random crap that we don't need. DRAM frequency, DDR2-900, timings. So the default is what, 666, 18, 3, 52. Let's leave TRFC on default. 6. You know what? Let's not fuck with subtimings right now. So, shall we just push frequency? What's the CPU ratio? Okay, the normal CPU ratio is quite high, so if I set the CPU ratio down to 6, we should have lots of room. Memory voltage, start with 2 volts, north bridge voltage, let's start with 1.2, which is still a bit of a boost. Where's my actual FSB? I need to change that to manual, don't I? There we are. So let's just, that's just flashing horrifically, isn't it? What do I need for, is it 333? No, 266 would give me DDR2 1066-ish. Let's try that. I mean, this should be fine. It's loose timings. The real question is, can it do it at slightly tighter timings? Ah, oh, blooming express gate. Anyway, the main reason that I'm even doing this is I just want to see if these work, and I thought if I'm testing stuff I may as well do it on stream. But I am just, you know, casually curious, what does this stick do? Let's let it run through. Let's let it run for a couple of minutes. How is everybody today, anyway? How are we all doing? I've got some personal updates. I had my booster shot on Thursday, so left arm still a little bit off from that, but basically fine now. I slept for a long time last night. I got a fairly early night, but then I actually still slept in really late. So that was, I don't know. I honestly think that's probably a lingering effect of the booster shot or something, because I had a third Pfizer shot, and that's what Pfizer normally does to me. Blue Paw Wolf says, woke up an hour ago, still not fully awake yet. Yeah, fair enough. I'm not sure if I'm fully awake yet either, to tell you the truth. But yeah, no real like noticeable effects from the booster though. Alice says the booster was nowhere near as bad as the second dose for me. Yeah, yeah, very much the same. Other than, you know, occasional sore arm, not really many noticeable effects. So, yeah, very mild. I think the first shot definitely sort of had the strongest effects by a long way. Like the first shot, I'm like just, you know, I get home and I just like sit down, and then I'm like, actually, I'm gonna have a nap. And it was still kind of nice. It was a little bit like being drunk, but oh, hello. That's interesting. So it's at very low voltage, but what we've discovered there is that this random unbinned OEM stick, I guess it's on an E PCB, isn't it? It's on the frequency wall PCB. But apparently it struggles a bit. Okay, well that took less than 3 minutes to get to, so let's find out if a little bit more memory voltage does anything to that, since we are at very low voltage. I'm not sure what the The scaling limit for these is supposed to be fairly low. But, I don't know, we'll see. Deepa says I still have to test the OCZs. Which OCZs? What did you get? You probably told me and I forgot. But, yeah. Right, so in about 3 minutes time we find out whether they scale from 2 volts to 2.1 volts, but I can't just keep looking at that, because if I keep trying to figure that out I'll be here forever, and the plan was to run through this testing fairly quickly, so we'll see. Oh, you got 2x2 gig Reapers on Fancy PCB, nice, nice. That's cool. I'm just thinking, while that's running, do I have any like surgical swabs anywhere, but I have an isopropyl alcohol spray. Since Memtest isn't doing anything interesting, I might as well clean that other stick. You know, with a Christmas patterned tea towel. Hopefully nothing bad happens in relation to that, but it doesn't look as though, well, maybe a teeny tiny bit, but it doesn't really look like it's made any difference, to be honest, at this point. To be honest, if this stick is dead, then what I can do is I can actually file the edge a bit, and we'll see how many layers it has, because I'm interested in that. I'm curious if it's somehow a 4-layer. Right, let's bring back Memtest before anything interesting happens. Well, the good news is nothing interesting has happened. But, oh no, there we are. That's slightly less errors. Okay, I think that's our conclusion. Voltage helps, but not by much. Although, you know, level of stability with Memtest is so nebulous. It could just be random. I know that's a disappointing conclusion. Right, back to auto timings, back to 200 FSB, back to auto memory, auto memory voltage. Do you not have an auto option? I don't like that it just flashes whenever I change something. I don't like that, but whatever. Alright, so now we're back to defaults. I'll take that to post, and that's posted. Hold on, I need to move one of the scenes up. There we are. Right. Maybe it would do better in a different slot, who knows. Let's move on, because I have more things to test. And that is the point of all of this. So, next one is still in the anti-static thingy. Let's unstick that. Right. Touch some metal for luck. So this is Elpida AJBG OEM. Well, as you can see, it's an HP OEM stick. But yes, 512 megabit AJBG. That's about the right position. Hopefully, should be some interesting stuff to play with. But the main reason that I bought this in an OEM stick is actually just that I wanted to get IC pictures. That's my excuse, because I said I wouldn't buy random DDR2, and it's not random. It was very cheap, which helps, and I bought it for a reason, so that's not random. Oh, Blue Paw Wolf has noticed the IntelliMouse. Is it a 2.0? I don't remember. I think it's a classic IntelliMouse. But yeah, close enough. Yeah, this is quite nice. Overclocking failed? What overclocking? That should work fine, but let's load defaults just in case. Even though it means we'll have a load of, you know, SATA controllers. And well, it's not. It's an IDE controller that takes the longest, isn't it? In post. I probably just got overclocking failed because I killed power while it was still in the middle of posting last time. That'll be why. Anyway. Let's see how this goes anyway. So this is 512 megabit AJBG at default. And running Memtest. But yeah, I've heard some good things about AJBG, but it's also apparently like really weird to work with. Although I think that's just Elpida in general. I can't really say that I have that clear of an idea in my head, but we'll find out. I think I want to let Memtest run. So while that's running, conversation. So, how about that 6500 XT, eh? I actually do have some opinions about this. How much of a rant do I want to do? The later stages of Memtest take quite a while, so let's go full rant. Let's have a rant here while Memtest runs. So, did you order that 6500 XT? Asks Alex. No, I didn't. I'm sticking with a card that's significantly slower and has less video memory than a 6500 XT, funnily enough. The way that Tech Press are talking about it is absolutely ridiculous. You know, they're loading up 1080p ultra settings, mind you. So, like, yeah, it's a modest resolution, but it's like the most demanding possible settings at that resolution. And then they're acting like it's a terrible graphics card because it doesn't handle that very well. Like, there's a lot of games where 4 gigabytes of video memory is not enough to run, again, ultra settings. Like, you know, the biggest possible textures won't fit in 4 gig. And they're acting like that means it's fatally flawed. Like, just turn the poxy settings down. It's not difficult. Okay. I was ranting about this in Tech Tested's Discord server a little bit, so let me pull up some of the quotes. Because Tech Power Up posted an article about this. As you can imagine, they're Tech Power Up, they do GPU reviews. So I read this and it annoyed me. So there are a lot of things about it that annoyed me. So let's start. We are testing at ultra settings, so you can definitely reach 60 FPS in most titles if you're willing to sacrifice some details. But why even bother with the PC if you do? Just buy a console if you can live with smeared out textures and blocky geometry at a locked 30 Hz. And it's just... you can't click link and watch stream. Don't worry, I'm going to read out the bits that have annoyed me. That was the first one. That was the biggest one as well, I think, because it's just like... this kind of ridiculous, like, PCMR, like, agreeing unironically with the worst stereotypes about PC gaming. Thank you for the sub. I feel weird about people subscribing to me while I'm, like, getting political and ranting about things, but sure, okay. If I rant about more things, do I get more subscribers? Is that how it works? This is not what PC gaming is about. PC gaming is not about having the best FPS and the highest possible detail. It happens to be good for that at the moment, because you can throw, you know, a lot of money at a PC. But the notion that, like, PC gaming is for spending lots of money and having better visual quality is nonsense. The whole point of PC gaming is you have access to this colossal back catalogue of games from the last 2 decades. Felt like I needed the garbage can for the 6500 XT talk. Yeah, fair enough. You've got 2 decades of gaming, and, like, some of these older games are fantastic, and they will run just absolutely beautifully, even on much older stuff than a 6500 XT. Like, I've been playing Just Cause 2 again recently. Do you need a 6500 XT ever, though? Do you mean even, though? But yeah, and then, you know, I was playing stuff like, you know, Far Cry 5. Far Cry 5 is great. Far Cry 3, really, really good game. Right, so Alice is saying there's the APUs if you buy new, there's Polaris if you buy used. So, the APUs are slower. That's pretty clear. Now, how much slower, I think, would be really interesting to explore, and I don't think anyone's done a good enough job of exploring that. Linus Tech Tips actually did a stream, though, on Friday, where they built a system using a 5600G and a 6500 XT. And at the end of the stream, what they did was they loaded up Doom Eternal, dialed in 1080p medium settings, played it on the 6500 XT, and they got a great experience. It was, you know, 90, 100 FPS. And then they took out the 6500 XT and they played it on the integrated graphics, and it was crap. It was 30 FPS. It was actually not a great experience. So, you know, I don't think it's fair to say that, like, for reference, 4650G iGPU runs like a 770. Yeah, exactly. Like, it's not a great experience on an iGPU compared to a 6500 XT. There is, you know, there's still a huge benefit to be had from that, you know, discrete GPU. And it's, you know, you can talk about benefits and talk about, like, a better experience that might be worth spending money without it having to be the best experience ever. Like, PC gaming is more than just, like, either on the one hand whatever junk you can find, or on the other hand, you know, an RTX 3090. Now, it would be really interesting to see a comparison of an APU build that's actually really like been properly tuned up, like the iGPU's been overclocked, the memory's been tuned, and compare that to a 6500 XT, sorry, with something like an Intel Core i3 that you can get for around £100. That would be a really interesting comparison, like around sort of the same cost. But the notion, as Tech Power Up was saying, that like you shouldn't even bother with PC gaming if you're going to not run at ultra settings is just fucking insulting. So I'll address a couple more things in chat now. Obscure Paradox says, my biggest issue with the 6500 XT and also 3050 is what you get for your money now. I often wonder what value we'd get if lower end cards were made without ray tracing, so much smaller dies used, and as such, lower cost and better end user price. Yeah, that's an interesting one. So I'm not sure how AMD's design handles that. I know they have ray accelerators. I get the impression they're not dedicating much die area to it. And it does mean they've at least got compatibility, and I think there were a couple of games where actually ray tracing did play alright on the 6500 XT. So, I don't know. The problem is the people who are investigating ray tracing on it, they tend to be investigating it by setting maximum settings, and when they do that, obviously it comes out unplayable. So it would be interesting to see if it's a worthwhile experience without cranking the settings. But yeah, that's also true. Like, you know, with these modern processors, yeah, you probably could dump ray tracing and get something better. Or, you know, similar performance for a lower price, which would be nice. So Blue Paw Wolf 1 says, personally I think the biggest issue is that they chose X4 PCIe Gen 4 when they could have gone for X8 Gen 3, probably same price or cheaper and better compatibility. So there's gonna, I'm not sure about that. I'm not a chip designer, but my instinct is that probably one lane of fast I/O is going to use less die area than 2 lanes of slower I/O. So I can't say for certain, but I would have expected that you're actually saving a lot of die area, especially when it's a chip that's already really small. Then the die area for something like a PCIe link starts being quite meaningful. But the other thing about that is, what people forget is that an RTX 3090 is only X16, so it's got 1/4 the length width of a 3090, right? And we're not expecting it to have as much as 1/4 of the performance. So these PCI Express bottleneck scenarios, they feel a little bit artificial to me. And I know part of the argument is, well, it's even slower than that. It's, you know, 3.0 X4 when people are putting it in a lower end, cheaper system. Like, if you're on B450, for example, then you only have 3.0. Which is true. I would counter that if somebody's buying this card, then it's because they're building a PC, like it's for a new build. And so it's more likely they're going to be going with B660 and an Intel Core i3 or something that does have PCIe 4.0. But it's true, but then still, it's only 1/8 of a 3090. And people say that the 3090 isn't PCIe bottlenecked. So obviously we've seen in reviews examples where the PCIe speed makes a huge difference to the 6500 XT. But I think the main reason for that is it's not that it's normally PCIe bottlenecked, it's that they're blowing out the VRAM with like excessive high settings. and that results in a situation where it's swapping out to system memory, and that makes it PCI Express bottlenecked. But if you just drop the settings, then it would be fine, and you want to drop the settings anyway to get a good experience. So Alice is saying it's more noob friendly to set everything to max and fairer to GPU comparisons, since the higher end suffers a lot if you're testing on low or mid, and that's because of CPU bottlenecks, of course. Yeah, there's an argument for that, but like, it's not realistic. You know, nobody's running. I've been finished with Memtest for a long time now, haven't I? Nobody is running games like with their video memory blown out. You know, you don't want to do that. You want to run your games at settings that don't use an excessive amount of video memory. Back in the day, I think it was Guru 3D. They don't do this anymore. But there was definitely a site that used to do reviews where they actually figured out what the best playable settings were. And that was a part of their review, is like, what kind of settings can you play on? It just speaks to how much like expectations have shifted. Like, now what's happening, how am I going to get into this? Now what's happening is reviewers have a standard test suite that's designed for testing the most high-end graphics cards, and they just put everything through that, and they just say, well, you know, either, oh, it's good because it gets good FPS, or it's shit because it gets terrible FPS. Without thinking about why, without thinking about, well, what might somebody want to do differently. So, you know, they're blowing out the video memory and then they're getting, you know, single-digit FPS in some titles, which is, you know, very easy to do by blowing out the video memory. And then they're saying, well, it's terrible because it only gets single-digit FPS. And single-digit FPS is not a good experience, but that's not how anyone would actually run the card. You know, I think a much more interesting question, for example, would be, can it play Cyberpunk? That's notoriously one of the most demanding games. Not can it play it, you know, max settings, you know, 1080p Ultra. Can it play it at all? Pretend that you are a gamer when you're reviewing your gaming hardware. Pretend that you have this GPU and you want to play Cyberpunk on it. What do you do? I think that's, you know, and if they're not doing that as part of their reviewing process when it looks like a card's not very good, then they're not getting a very good conclusion. Because they're no longer testing a realistic scenario at all. They're just artificially introducing a bottleneck. Blue Poor Wolf says, my thought is that it's more an upgrade for older systems with PCIe Gen 3. Is it though? Like, I mean, if you have a system that is an older system in need of a faster GPU, why are you looking at like the low end of the market? Surely the nature of a GPU upgrade is that you want to buy a fast card. And that's the thing, because it's a bottom end. Like, nobody says, oh well, the 5450, that's a card that people might buy because they're upgrading. Ugh. Anyway, this is the last stick that I'm going to be testing today. It's an OCZ SLI stick, and it's DDR2-900 44315. It's on the OCZ like black PCB, so it's actually, you probably can't see, but there's a little 8 just there, so it's an 8-layer PCB. I'm just going to visually inspect the ICs a little bit. I don't think this is going to be able to come off on camera. I think they're probably Micron D9, you know, D9 GMH or some such. Sorry, I'm just going to take the stick away and have a bit of a look. Yeah. I don't see any of the Elpida bumps on the ICs, so probably Micron. Let's plug that in. It'd be interesting to 3D print something that like lets you plug in these OCZ sticks without putting any pressure on the heat spreaders. Right, so let's fire that up and test defaults first. Yeah, I don't know. I'm struggling to imagine what older system somebody would have that needed a GPU upgrade and where they were looking at the performance class or like the price class rather of a 6500 XT. I don't know, like I guess if you've got like a 2 gig RX 460 maybe? But then if you've got a 2 gig RX 460, then you need to evaluate, well, what is the difference going to be? Alice says there are reviewers like that, like Random Gaming in HD. And yeah, Random Gaming in HD is great. Deeper says 6500 XT is pointless since older cards can outperform it. I mean, that's... By that logic, the GTX 1070 was pointless, because the 980 Ti existed. Don't even get me started on the GTX 1060. What a pointless card. You know, you could outperform that with a 980 Ti. You could probably outperform it with a GTX 980. GTX 1060, totally pointless card, and that's why nobody bought it. You know, the thing about the 60... And that's the other thing. People are setting the bar for the 6500 XT in this ridiculous way, where people are saying, well, you can get a card on the used market for the same price that will perform about the same. And they're saying that makes it bad value. It's a new card. Normally the expectation is that the used market, you can get something for, you know, not necessarily as low as half the price, although maybe, but like certainly a much cheaper price on the used market. That's what you expect. You expect the used market to be better value. And now people are saying the 6500 XT is bad because it doesn't compete well enough with the used market. It's not supposed to. It's supposed to be a graphics card that you can buy, and now it's not been bloody mined on. Tech Tested says, I think the advantage of the 6500 XT is new, comes with a long-term driver support and a warranty versus the used market. Exactly, yeah, precisely. Like, it's... Yeah... It's ridiculous. Yeah, people saying a card's not... Like, I know... It's been a thing that the tech press have been saying for years. That, like, the used market is better value, you know. You can go used, and that's correct. That's often a good idea. And the fact that like an older card has been EOL'd should not automatically make a newer card better, because that's the kind of thinking that leads to planned obsolescence. But I think, you know, that should remain like, you know, a hot tip. You know, the argument has been made for years and years and years. I mean, it's why Linus Tech Tips started doing Scrapyard Wars. Right, was they wanted to make the point that you can spend, what was it, $300 for the first one on a gaming PC, and get a good gaming PC, at least you could back then. I'm a little bit worried, to tell you the truth. I think it might need a clean. I don't think... No, it doesn't look like any SMDs have been knocked off the PCB on this, so that's a good start. So Deep is saying this is low end beaten by older low end, and that's the problem. And I mean, kind of. One of the issues here is, like, people are making the point that this is a GPU that's launched at the same. So okay, let's get one thing out of the way. A lot of the tech press are making out that the 6500 XT is a much more expensive graphics card than it really is. You know, people are making out that, like, you can't buy it for less than $350, and that's just not true. Like, you know, you can look at. It's not as if you had to be really fast at launch. I mean, I haven't checked Newegg today, but there was hours and hours and hours where it was available for way below that. You know, here in the UK there were units available for £180 even on launch. But people are making the point that the RX 480 was $200, which is the same price as the 6500 XT, and the 6500 XT is no better, which is a fair point. You know, they're not wrong, but that's reflective of the market as it exists. You know, if AMD price up their, you know, what should realistically should be a $150, $100 card, if they price that up a little bit, then I think that's better, rather than having, like, you know, fastest fingers first. You know, some people get it for a good price, but then it just goes straight into the hands of scalpers. I mean, if you look at the price to performance for the MSRP, the price to performance is fantastic. 5500 XT 4GB was under 200, yeah. And it's, you know, it's unfortunate that a card that's available now with comparable performance is more expensive, but that's what has happened to the GPU market. That's not AMD are reacting to that, but they're being realistic with their MSRP, and I think that's probably better. Only because we're conditioned to think current prices are fine. I mean, nobody's conditioned to think that. Nobody does think that, though. What do you know? Cleaning worked. We are in. We've booted that. You know, the thing is, nobody's considering $200, €200, whatever. Nobody's considering that low. But you have to look at the market and look at what's available and say it objectively is. Like, it's the cheap. You go to an e-tailer now to buy a new graphics card, and you find that it is the cheapest that you can buy by a really long way. So, like, it's ridiculous to me that people are acting as though it's a sad reflection of the situation. But the, you know, $150 5500 XT 4GB, okay, GT 710s and stuff, yeah, okay, you can probably get something like that. But that's going to cost, you know, what, $80, something like that? And that is legitimately awful. Like, you can still use it. I'm not going to sit here and say that you should get a console before you get a 710. But the 6500 XT actually can play modern games if His Highness is willing to drop the settings a little bit. Whereas a 710, like, at that point, you actually can't play modern games. Which, you know, as I say, you can, like, the games that I've enjoyed playing, well, to be fair, I'm on a 7870 XT at the moment, but I did actually choose to get rid of some more modern cards that were in the 6500 XT performance class, because I felt that was too much performance for me. I felt I didn't need that, that's the really funny bit, right? That's the punchline. is speaking as a gamer. You know, I've not only felt that kind of performance level that I was getting from a 5500 XT 4 gig, that I was getting from an RX 480 4 gig. You know, that level of performance I felt was actually more than I needed. And I do regret it a little bit, because then I got back into Just Cause 3, and Just Cause 3 is a little bit of a struggle on a 7870 XT. And I was previously on an R7 360E, and it was technically playable on that, but it was awful. It was not good. Tech Tested says it's the perfect card to slap in an old Optiplex pre-built for esports IMO. Probably won't need to upgrade the power supply. Yeah, so yes and no. I half agree. This is why it annoys me that AMD haven't put out the RX 6400 for consumers. It's like an OEM only card, because that's the version that's running like not overclocked. That's the version that's running within a 60 watt power limit or something. And that doesn't have a 6-pin, that doesn't require the auxiliary power, that you legitimately can just slap in a pre-built. And actually, on AMD's website, they're advertising the workstation variant of that, and a big part of their advertising for the workstation variant is like, this is a cheap GPU that you can just slap into an existing system and you don't have to worry about the power supply. So I'm a little bit annoyed that they haven't made that available to consumers, because that seems like it would be a real boon. Because that really is the thing where you buy an old pre-built with a Sandy Bridge, Ivy Bridge Core i5 or something, and throw in an RX 6400, and then you've got a really good experience. You can play modern AAA games. Well, I don't know how the Core i5 would keep up, but you can play a lot of fucking games. You can get a good experience for not very much at all, if they actually release the lower power limit version. Right, I really want to set the fan up here. Let's be careful. Okay. There we go. Deepa's saying you can play on a 580 660 if you turn down settings a bit. Efficiency will be trash. I still don't get the point. I mean, efficiency is not great on older cards, but if you're not doing much gaming, then the power efficiency doesn't make too much difference. If you're gaming all day every day, then yeah. But the 6500 XT is pretty power efficient. So yeah, well this is livened up chat. I'm glad I brought it up. What else did Tech Power Up say? Because I had more gripes with that. Oh god. Yeah, so something else Tech Power Up said. Compared to the Radeon RX 6600 XT, the RX 6500 XT is roughly half as fast. The difference between the numbers 6500 and 6600 is just 1%, on the other hand. That annoyed me, because, like, that's just being absolutely ridiculous about it. That's just, you know, just consciously arguing in bad faith by, like, including the digit for the generation. I mean, make an argument that it should have been called the 6400 if you must. But, like, that's ridiculous. Like, the notion that, like, what, is it supposed to only be 1%, like, 1% slower? Is that how it's supposed to work? It's half the bloody price. It's half as fast, so bad when it's half the price. Alice says trying to be Steve lol. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What else was there? Yeah. AMD's new release really competes with aging designs from yesteryear. The Radeon RX 580 is roughly equal in performance, just like the GeForce GTX 1650 Super. The RX 570 is 12% slower, the 1066 gig is 8% behind. Cards like the RTX 2060, Vega 64, 5600 XT are 50% faster. That's a huge difference. So I looked into this. This was 3 days ago, to be fair. But you can't get any of those cards on Newegg for under $400 when I looked into this 3 days ago. Other than there was a refurbished MSI RX 574 gig that was $385 shipped. So even if you accept, and this isn't true, so you don't have to accept it, but even if you accept what Tech Power Up was saying, that the 6500 XT costs $350, it's still cheaper than any of the other cards that they mentioned, even the slower ones, as, you know, would be competitors. Surely being significantly cheaper than any of the competitors, that's a massive win. That should be a massive win. I mean, it's a bit ridiculous, and you know, in reality, you can get it for under $300 easily. In fact, let me look it up right now, because I was looking at it a few days ago. Maybe things have changed. So if I look up 6500 XT on Newegg, you can get, yeah, so there's a gigabyte one which is $310 shipped. That's ridiculous, nobody should buy it. There's a Power Color ITX card for $270, smaller gigabyte one for $280 shipped. Yeah, they're generally around $270, $280 shipped, and then there's others that are actually $200 plus $10 shipping. Those are out of stock. But you can get it for under $280, which is, you know, that's a big difference compared to $350, and it's a big difference compared to any of the alternatives as well. Alice says Germany has none under €300. That's unfortunate. I sort of, because of the availability on Newegg, I'm kind of inclined to blame German retail for that. Actually, that's kind of funny, because overclockers are owned by Case King Group, who are German. Let's see what overclockers have available. AMD graphics cards, 6500 XT. Yeah, £225 right now for Sapphire Pulse. Really nice little card as well. Mind Factory had them in the first hour but quickly ratcheted the price upwards. Well, yeah. And doesn't that tell you something? Like, the fact that, like, retailers are pushing up the prices and pushing up the prices. I mean, it tells you that you shouldn't buy from those retailers and you shouldn't pay those prices, but it also tells you that it was really good value at the price it's supposed to be. So, yeah. I mean, it's difficult, but the problem is that, like, for AMD to... You should see the prices we have to pay, to be fair, says Obscure Paradox. Obscure Paradox, do you want to say where you work? I don't know how much you'd be sort of allowed to say. Yeah, so Obscure Paradox works at Scan, who's one of the other really big UK retailers. Yeah, the comment MSRP is a myth. Yeah, my understanding loosely, and I assume you can't talk specifics, but my understanding loosely is that retailers tend to have to pay quite quite high prices, so the margins are really thin. Yeah, I can't say exactly what we pay, but what I can say is we make fuck all money on GPUs. Yeah, and that's a fair point, and to some extent you can say, well, can you really blame retailers for scalping a little bit effectively? But I think a lot of this comes down to just the price it's available at, and when the prices are being pushed up and up and up, so they're over €300, yeah, sounds like it's not a brilliant deal at that point. Fair enough. I don't think I would recommend paying over €300 for a 6500 XT. I find it difficult to label it a bad product just because it's being sold with that asking price. Right, do these sticks have a voltage spec? It's just 44315 at DDR2-900. Let's try 2.2 volts. But yeah, I think my understanding is one of the few ways that someone like AMD can actually influence what retailers sell at is by offering the retailer a rebate for selling cards at a certain price or below a certain price. And that's a really, really expensive way to control pricing. Obscure Paradox says my OCZ stick stopped scaling much after 2.5 volts. Yeah, I've heard of D9 scaling really, really high. Yeah. Alice says Intel Arc is getting so much unnecessary hype. Yes. Yeah, I agree. Intel Arc has the same problem that the 6500 XT has, which is that the prices that end up being asked for it are going to be what the market will bear. And maybe the fact that Intel have such a huge, I think contra revenue is a term that I've heard used, contra revenue scheme, but basically that they have these huge marketing development funds that they pay retailers with. Maybe that means that Intel can flex a bit more muscle on the pricing, and Intel might be able to keep Arc at the price that they want it to be, rather than the price that retailers want to charge. But yeah, I mean, it's a very pessimistic take, I'll admit, but the nature of the current market is that nothing is well priced, right? Because the 6500 XT was well priced, and then apparently, at least in Germany, retailers have come in and said, not anymore. Obscure Paradox says more supply into the market is never a bad thing, though. That's what most of the hype is about. Yeah, that's a fair point. Compared to others too, Intel generally do better with stock on launch, and that's very true, yeah. Alder Lake's good, and Alder Lake has been very in stock. Intel do seem to be very, very good at stocking shelves. Alice says supply can't force quality of offers, and I mean, it's true, but I don't know. I'm actually not sure. I'm hesitating here because I don't want to speculate beyond what I can say for sure, but because obviously a retailer having lots of supply doesn't mean that retailer has to charge a lower price. but also if there's lots of supply, then like, because the thing is, if you've got constricted supply, then whoever charges a lower price is going to sell through all of their stock, and then they won't be able to make any more money. Whereas if you charged a higher price, you would sell through more slowly, but you would make potentially a lot more money on each sale. But if you don't have a constriction on supply, then you charge a lower price and you don't sell through all of your stock because you have a lot of stock. So what you've done is you've got the sales off of other people, and you've made more sales, you've made more money. Now, that stops working if you have a large amount of the supply being controlled by one or two groups. And this is the issue with student housing in the city that I live in, for example, where you have these giant student housing projects, and yet student housing remains really expensive, even though there's so much capacity being added every year. And the reason is that if you're someone like City Block is one of the companies, then you can just leave some of your rooms empty. You don't care. You want to keep your prices high. So you just charge whatever you want to charge, and students have to live somewhere. And there's also kind of a lot of students will panic a little bit about it. So like they feel like, well, I have to organise my student housing in like my first term of first year. And so they get taken advantage of that way as well. Like, I remember when I was in first year of university, we went to view this one house, and the landlord said, oh, there's actually another group that have like just gone to get their deposit, so like you need to go and get your deposit faster than them to get the place. Now fortunately we decided we didn't like the place anyway, but I didn't have the sense then to say, oh well, we'll be off then. You know, no point in us looking around if someone else is wanting it. You know, we don't want to gazump somebody. And, you know, I wish that we'd said that. What we didn't. What we said was the desks are too small instead, which is funny. But yeah, I mean, the nature of it is that if you've got these really big companies, I mean, this guy, he was a landlord on private houses, but he was a really, like, he has a lot of property in the area. You know, drives a car with a custom number plate and everything. Yeah, I'm kind of like, I don't want to like name names, but this person had a lot of property in the area. So he doesn't care if he doesn't sell some of it. You know, it wouldn't surprise me if they deliberately make the availability look worse than it is as well, by like not putting all of their properties on the market straight away, because the students are told in November you need to get a move on and find somewhere for next year. So if I'm a landlord, then what am I going to do? I'm going to put some of my property up, make it look like there's a real shortage, a real scarcity, and then just drip feed more property onto the market, and then I can keep my prices high. But that's what happens when you have a fairly small number of people who are controlling the market. It doesn't have to be a monopoly, but I think I've heard the term oligopoly. I might be misusing that. But you could argue that that's happening with retailers to some extent, but like, I don't think so. Not really. I mean, maybe. It'd be interesting to see if that happens, actually. You know, if as supply eases, retailers start going, well, I don't know if I want to drop prices. Like, let's say, right now, you're a German retailer, and you've got lots of 6500 XTs. They're in stock. You can sell them if you want to. Would you not want to push the prices up? Would you not want to say, well, oh, the 6500 XT, you don't want that. That's really bad value. You should buy a 6600 XT instead. That's better value. So maybe there's, I mean, I don't know what the margins are like on the different products, but like, it's a definite risk that a retailer might deliberately decide we're not going to try to chase sales because we can just keep pushing our prices up. And the thing that's actually, I suspect, would break that is just mining. Ethereum's been falling. If it continues to fall, some miners are going to panic sell their GPUs. Not all of them, but some will. And then suddenly, as a retailer, you have to compete with this massive used market that's come up. And when somebody's panic selling, then they're going to be charging lower prices. So maybe that will happen. Oh, that's my poorly informed economics rant done for today. Anyway, DDR2-900 44315 is looking good, so this stick does spec, which is wonderful news. It's always nice when a stick does spec. Touch wood. Where's some wood? There. So a few more minutes on that. But yeah, what else has been in the news? There's the thing with Twitter recently. Apparently, like, Twitter are doing like a special thing for like people with NFTs to let them use them as profile pictures. Like, you can link a wallet to Twitter to prove that you like own an NFT, and then like the image that the NFT links to will be your profile picture with like a special, I think, was it a hexagon or something around it, but like a special thing showing that it's an NFT. Which, so the thing about an NFT, like, an NFT is very much analogous to a piece of paper. Insofar as anyone can make one and anyone can write whatever they want on it. You can create an NFT that points to a certain image, but you can then go and create another NFT that points to exactly the same image. An NFT doesn't prove that you own an image. An NFT proves that you own that bit of paper, that NFT. And then the bit of paper might say on it a link to an image. And often that link is just going to be to an image on like Google Drive or something. Alice says now NFTs are moderated though. Yeah, but at that point, it's not a blockchain issue anymore. It's not an NFT thing. It's an OpenSea thing. It's, I have bought this on OpenSea. The blockchain has nothing to do with it at that stage. You're back to the authority of human moderators. Exactly, yeah. And at that point, it's like the blockchain's just kind of getting in the way. Like, there's all these stories about, you know, people who get tricked into, you know, giving up, sending away an NFT, and then like no one can reverse it because it's on a blockchain. But I mean, even if you have humans who are moderating away, like, people just duplicating an image, it's still, like... I mean, the main issue is that they're mostly shit. Like, they look rubbish and they're only attractive because they're an NFT. And because people keep saying NFTs are, yeah. Alice says there was an interesting article by Moxie Marlin Spike where he tried out making NFTs and saw how OpenSea deleted an NFT from his local wallet, since NFTs don't actually exist in wallets. So, Alice, do you mean by that like they deleted the image that was referenced? Or that like he didn't have it in his own wallet and he had it in like a wallet on OpenSea or something? What do you mean there? Memtest has passed. I think I want to see how strong this stick is. At least try and get a general idea. From the OpenSea API, the wallet uses to read the NFT from the blockchain. Since the blockchain never reaches your browser. So what, they just blocked access to that NFT through their system? Right, 444, 2.2 volts, DDR2 1000, let's go. This is one of the problems with all of this blockchain stuff, is like, there's a lot of complexity that's not, it's not really necessary, it's just obfuscation. And I think one of the effects that this obfuscation has is you can have stuff that's quite obviously bad, and then people say, well, no, it's actually not bad, but you just don't understand why, because you don't understand how the blockchain works. People will in general go, yeah, fair enough, I don't understand how the blockchain works. But that doesn't mean that they were wrong about it being obviously bad. It's also weird because it's like, the more you think you understand what's going on, the more it's like, well, what's going on doesn't seem to make sense in relation to how people are behaving. That's one of the kind of weird bits. And I think that makes it more difficult to understand, because I think people are behaving as though it's something it isn't. Like at this point, like getting Twitter to like add a special thing for like NFT profile pictures. Like, you don't need an NFT to have a special thing for certain profile pictures. The NFT has nothing to do with that. That's something that Twitter are doing. It's being verified and implemented by Twitter, not by a blockchain. Deepa says, I didn't listen to the conversation, to be honest, but I don't know how NFTs work. So, my understanding of an NFT is that it's a little bit of data on the blockchain. I think it's based on Ethereum smart contracts or something. But it's a bit of data on the blockchain that says, this is what I am and this is who owns me. Now, I don't know whether it's the data itself that like says the owner, or if it's like the blockchain knows the owner, but like it's just a little bit of data. And generally with artwork as an NFT, that data is a link to an image that is hosted on an external site, which might even be something like Google Drive, potentially. The image isn't hosted on the blockchain. It can be taken down on the external site or changed. But that's what it is. And then trading an NFT is a bit like trading cryptocurrency. It's, you know, you just say, as the owner of this thing, I decree that someone else now owns it. And the code updates that on the blockchain and says, now, okay, now somebody else owns it. It doesn't regulate access unless you can persuade third parties to check what's on the blockchain and to regulate the access themselves. And that's what Twitter's doing now, is they're checking, I guess, I don't know if it's with the Ethereum blockchain or if it's just they're checking with OpenSea, but they're checking, does somebody actually have an NFT on the blockchain that links to this image? And if so, they can use that image as their profile picture with a special frame. Alice says, true, Steam sells avatar frames. And yeah, it's exactly the same thing. It's just you've added a blockchain to it, which just adds complexity and doesn't do anything else. Deeper says, where's the money? So, putting an NFT on the blockchain in the first place costs ether, costs cryptocurrency, as does transferring it. So there's some money in that. You know, you can't just run around minting NFTs willy-nilly. But other than that, like, the reason that NFTs are selling for such huge amounts is like someone is willing to give somebody else all of that money in exchange for that person writing down, you know, telling the NFT, this other person owns you now. Although it seems like a lot of that might be wash trading. So like a lot of that, people are actually just selling it to themselves under a different address because it's cryptocurrency, so you can just fucking do that. And then in other cases, it's like you have a buyer who's like, I don't know, they're just rich and gullible. And, you know, you tell them, well, you know, if you give me this many millions of dollars, then a bit of cryptographically verifiable data will say that you own, you know, link2.jpg. But it's a bit arcane. My understanding is that Ethereum has, like, this whole programming language associated with it. It's a whole thing. And NFTs are built on that, but yeah. Deep says, okay, so I make a picture, pay to link it to a blockchain and sell it to other people. Yeah, exactly, yeah. Except you don't necessarily make a picture. Art theft is really, really common. It's like saying a piece of paper has a value of X and I give it to a friend as a payment. Yeah, basically, yeah. It's that, except you have more computers involved. Alice says the Ethereum blockchain is basically a computer that runs your code in exchange for money, and the code is usually about transferring tokens. Yeah. Yeah, I don't fully understand how the whole thing with like the Ethereum blockchain as a computer works, but that's the understanding that I had as well. Well, DDR2 1000 is looking pretty good. So I guess I'll let the pass finish. They very rarely fail towards the end. Deepa says, damn, why? Good question. Good question. Also, why are people buying tulip bulbs? What's the point of tulips? You know, it's... Yeah. Good question, and it's exactly the same as any other, like, mania, really. It's... some people have run around convincing other people that this stuff is worth something, and then, like, once you've got one sucker to pay $1, you get another sucker to pay $2, and then you use that to get another sucker to pay $3, and so on and so forth. And part of this is a lot of the people who get involved know it's a scam. Like, they not that it's a scam. Like, the definition of a scam is, I don't want to necessarily say that it's strictly speaking a scam, because that has a specific meaning, although it kind of is. They know that it's built on nothing. They know that it's not worth what they themselves are paying when they buy something. But they're just hoping that someone else is a bigger idiot, right? That somebody else will be willing to pay even more than them for the thing that, again, is worthless. And that is very much analogous to a pyramid scheme or a Ponzi scheme. Insofar as the value doesn't come from making anything. The value doesn't come from anything that's useful. The value comes from an expectation that someone else is going to put even more money in, and you get your money back off of them. And at the end of it, you know, the music stops, everyone has to find a chair, and someone is left standing up. I don't know if that analogy translates. Like, do Italy and Germany have musical chairs as a game? Is that a thing? I don't know. Deepa says it's lucrating on worthless images of monkeys. I've never heard the word lucrating before. As in lucrative. Good word, though. I like that word. But yeah, I mean, fundamentally, like, you can't do anything with them. So, in the same way that you can't do anything with like art, Alice says, "Is it really different than buying MP3s on iTunes?" The biggest difference between NFTs and buying MP3s on iTunes is... Well, no, it is different, because, like, buying MP3s on iTunes, they're DRM free, whereas NFTs are, like, extremely DRM controlled, in a way. You know, it's equivalent to, like, buying art, right? Like, sorry. Buying an MP3 on iTunes is equivalent to buying art. Deepa says, sorry, lucrating is probably a bad translation of an Italian word. It's... Yeah, I mean, lucrating is not a word in English. But it also makes sense because we do have the word lucrative. And I don't know, how would you translate that? I don't think we have a direct translation of that. I don't think we have a single word that's like something in that means making money. Unless I'm just really blanking. Aha, we have a pass. Let's see if we can push clocks up a little bit more. I mean, this is quite silly because I've been doing my bidding with SuperPi. But while I'm here... Profiting! Yes, profiting, that's the word. Yeah. Actually, no, let's be even more aggressive. Why not? try 530 megahertz DDR2 1060. But yeah, I mean, like, I've bought art in the past. Like, those of you who know Ground, on Discord, like, I think he still has it as his profile picture. Like, I paid someone to draw his Sergal OC character as the "Don't touch my trash." Is it a possum or whatever it was? As the "Don't touch my trash" meme. Anyway. And that, you know, that's buying art, right? Like, I paid a lot less than what people pay for NFTs, and it was for, like, an actual artist to sit down and make it, rather than for something that was just kind of procedurally generated. I can't remember how much it was. It was under €100 though. It was 2 digits, so... yeah, not too expensive. What's it actually... I'm interested now. What does it cost to mint an NFT? Let's Google this while Memtest runs. So OpenSea has a minting fee or something? Minting authorizations? What is this? So there's a website has made a self-promoting Medium post here about how you can create NFTs for free. So free minting, as in buyer will pay for minting gas fees. Right, so this website... basically, they don't mint the NFT until somebody buys it. Okay. There's people... some of these results are saying it costs, like, there's one saying $70, another one saying $120. I mean, it's going to be some amount of ether, right? But, like, I Google it and it's like OpenSea saying 2.5% of the final sale price. So, what even is the bloody gas fee? This seems like there should be a much more straightforward answer than there is. Oh, so the gas fees vary as well? What's a GWEI? GWEI. Denomination of ether. Okay. So it varies depending on the network traffic. That makes sense. Alex says it's about $40 right now. Grey goes up and down based on supply and demand. There's a fixed amount of stuff that can be done in a block, so therefore when lots of people want to do something, it goes up. Yeah, that figures. Because, you know, it's always good to create a system that, like, gets unusably expensive the moment it's popular. That's always nice. That's always a good design. I see now why people are saying, oh, minting an NFT takes, like, thanks for building a fixed speed cloud computer solution, says Alice. Yeah. I see now why people say that minting an NFT takes, like, X amount of energy as well. So does the block difficulty on Ethereum, does that scale? Does it get like changed up and down? That's affected by how many people are mining. So yeah. So it is literally fixed speed. Like, the difficulty gets altered to make sure that, like, the same number of blocks are processed. So the goal is a block time of 13 or so seconds. Okay. And then each block can process a certain number of whatever things you're doing. So NFT creation and transfer is one of the things that can go on a block. And so there's a hard cap on how many NFTs can be created or transferred. And just in general, how much stuff the Ethereum blockchain can do, I guess? Or how much stuff Ethereum in general can do? Like, I guess is it the blockchain doing it? Is it miners? Who knows? Who knows? Yeah, that seems like a less than ideal solution. It's there's not a fixed number of transactions per block. Each thing you do has a fixed grey count. Lowest being 21,000 for a standard token exchange, with minting NFTs being in the 50,000 range. That seems like a lot. So what's that in Ether? That's a tiny amount. That shouldn't be that expensive. So to find out what a transaction would cost, you find the current gas fee and then multiply it by 21,000, right. That's really weird. So I would need to look into this more. But I mean, isn't that just the thing, right? Like, it's all really weird and obfuscated. Like, it's not that it's inherently complicated, but it's not that it's not doing something that's inherently complicated to do. It just is complicated. Anyway, those settings passed. So let's keep going. I'm going to have to rebin it with SuperPi, but my understanding is that Memtest86 Plus is not that different to SuperPi for stability, so yeah, let's do around 1100. I mean, at this point I'm being really aggressive, like that should be very, very difficult for it. I think, where's my tray of good DDR2? I say good DDR2. Different people have different opinions about that. Right. This is the tray. It says bind D9 there. Right. Okay, so this is literally my best stick, and you can't read that. Can I angle that? There. So that's the megahertz it does, right? So 565, that's like DDR2 1130. Slight problem with this particular stick. Don't know if you can see, but it's 512 megabyte single rank. And the PCB it's on has a frequency wall, I think. I'm actually not 100% sure. I think it does. So this is my current best. That's my best dual rank stick that I've actually tested. So it does 555 megahertz, so that's 1110 through SuperPi, and that's at 2.2 volts. Obviously, they will scale higher than that potentially. My best dual rank OCZ stick, I think we've probably beaten. Because this was my best dual rank OCZ stick, and as you can see it's only 1070. But to be fair, I don't know what PCB this is on, and I don't think it's a PCB that's as good. Or wait, no. I'm not sure actually. Interesting. No, this PCB might be good. Fascinating. I've just realised I think that this stick is actually like... Let me give you the bigger camera for a sec. If you look at the edge of that stick, right? You can see you've got ground plane going right down to the edge in between the passives. Do I have a different PCB for comparison to hand? Oh, of course I do, of course I do. One moment. Right, so you see this stick, right? You see how in between the passives at the edge, you've got these gaps in the ground plane? So if I pull this one out again, you can see the edges there, you don't have those gaps. The ground plane goes all the way to the edge in between the passives. So I think that this stick here might be on the high megahertz newer PCB design. That's interesting. So that might actually be competitive with ballistics. Nice. Where did I put the lid for that memory tray? I'll give you the Memtest screen back now. I've actually misplaced the lid of the memory tray. Ah, there it is. There it is. So Alex says, for right now, a standard transaction, it would be current gas fee of 90 times 21,000 for a token exchange, then divide by a billion, which gets us 0.00189 ETH, or around $5. So why are people saying, oh, I minted an NFT and it cost me $70, or it cost me, you know, $100 or whatever? Like, ETH hasn't fallen that far, has it? One more thing, OpenSea is using around 15% of the ETH network constantly. Fun. Yeah. OpenSea, of course, being the ones selling the pickaxes. Yeah, I don't really understand this stuff. I mean, it's the kind of not understanding where it's like, okay, that seems to make sense, but then why? So I found an article on a site called Poster Grind. I have no idea if they're any good. I assume from the use of grind in the title they're not. How much does NFT minting cost? Costs can fall into a very wide range, anything from under $1 to over $1,000. That's helpful. Many popular NFT wallets are going to let you mint completely free of charge, though some are going to charge a basic fee of between $70 and $120. However, during peak times, costs have risen upwards of $200 to $300. Right, so this is platforms pushing these fees? It's not clear if this is like to mint 1 or it can be like the same cost to mint like 50. Seems like it's a platform thing. Alex says, I'm pretty sure that has to do with NFTs costing 50k or more gas and people doing this at hundreds of gwei. 500 gwei and 50k gas would make that transaction cost $62. Yeah, that makes sense. Someone does it, it costs them a ton of money, and then they go post about how it costs a ton of money, and so that becomes the information that you can find. But also clearly a flaw in the system that can just happen, and it can just cost someone that much money, and they don't even realise that, like, they don't get to consider, do I want to pay all this money or not? Yeah, they don't get to consider, might it be beneficial to wait? They don't even realise it's expensive right now, and it's not necessarily always going to be expensive. Well, this stick is looking really good. Memtest86 Plus about to pass, you know, touch wood. About to pass at 550. Alex says there are times when current gas prices are 2,000 gwei, which would make the minting cost $250. That's insane. That's just a ridiculous level of variability. Deeper is stuck reinstalling Windows 10. Well, I hope that listening to me ramble about NFTs helps with the boringness. I have no idea. I've got like a website open that tracks the gas cost, and it does seem to be varying a bit. Like, it's been between like 80 and it's now at like nearly 120. Which does seem a little bit less than ideal. And that's pass complete. So, let's see just how good this stick is. I mean, to be fair, maybe it's also benefiting from the fact that I cleaned the contacts. I don't think I've done that with some of the others. I should probably go through and just clean all of my DDR2 at some point. Hmm. 570 would be my best DDR2. Let's find out if this is my best DDR2. Well, it posted. I'm just going to sit here like shuffling memory modules down in my bins DDR2 tray in order to make space for it. Near the top. Because one way or another it's going near the top. That seems pretty clear at this point. I'm going to need a bigger tray for bins DDR2 at some point. Oh no! There's errors. Okay, so it's not the best, necessarily. I was being really aggressive. Let's back off a little bit then. Still looking really good though. Come on, give me BIOS. 280. Boop. So that's 560. 560 megahertz. What's really boring, says Alex, is that they made an upgrade to the network which adds a base fee of X grey, I don't know how much it is, which always gets sent to a null address, which means it gets burned, making ETH deflationary around the same time they did that NFTs caught on. So before then, gas was regularly below 50 and would occasionally hit under 10. But now 1,000 is normal, so transfers are way more expensive than they used to be. So people are unhappy because it's expensive, and the miners are unhappy because gas fees that would normally go to them are being partially burned. That does sound really annoying, yeah. I don't see what the benefit of doing that is. And it's also like, I mean, it's one of the things about cryptocurrency, right? Oh, no central authority. Who is they, you know? Someone was a central authority because someone did that. Yeah, I mean, the whole thing with, like, you know, cryptocurrencies always being, like, theoretically deflationary. There's a reason that, like, you don't normally do that. There's a reason that economies don't normally attempt to achieve deflation. Oh, well, I'm still unhappy. ETH devs think it will make the price go up, and instead it crashed lol, and it forces the proof of stake switch closer. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's like deflation means price go up, you know, line go up, but only as long as there's people willing to put the money in, and at some point people are going to go, this doesn't look any good. So it's how much piss can you take? I guess they found the limit. Um, 275. Wait, I did 275, didn't I? It passed at 275. Didn't it? I swear it did. I don't remember. That's embarrassing. And all of this is why there now exists side chains, which are like ETH but have much lower gas fees. Yeah, It's interesting, like, you know, because it's all very well looking at the line and thinking, well, what's the line thinking? What will the line do next? But that's interesting to hear about, because it's like, okay, if you've got fragmentation, then I guess maybe that's an actual reason, and we can look at the actual reason and we can think, well, okay, what's happening next. Sidechains are often expensive to get into and out of, or they're complicated. Yeah, of course. Because to get onto a different chain, you have to, like, tell the existing chain, oh, this asset is moving over to this other chain, don't you? But yeah, I can see how this is all, like, at the end of the day, it's something that's going to make people less willing to put money into Ethereum. You know, they might keep mining, but they're not going to exchange their USD for ETH. And of course, if people aren't exchanging their USD for ETH, then, well, line go down. Is it still going down today? What scale is that? So it's gone up a little bit over the last day, but not really. And yeah, over a month, pretty down. Wow, so it's still up, like, across the last year, but not even by that much anymore. I hate all of these charts have blimmin' non-zero axes. Yeah, that's a pretty big crash there. That is continuing. Well. Alex says, RAM question. I'm looking at a Rampage 4 Extreme combo with 64GB of RAM, water-cooled 8 sticks. Any guesses as to which IC they might use? So that's 8GB per stick, so it's something in 4GB density. Do you know anything about the sticks? Have you posted them anywhere? Deeper says don't bother MFR and maybe D-die. D-die is 4GB sticks. If these are 8GB per stick, then MFR maybe. Only info I have is that they're water cooled. Right. Yeah, I mean, the thing about 8GB sticks, none of the 4GB ICs are competitive for performance. Part of the reason for that is that they inherently have a higher TRFC requirement. So the only use for that high capacity is if you need that high capacity, which for overclocking purposes means running Y cruncher, right? Single rank 4GB, you can do frequency, but dual rank sticks are no good for frequency anyway. So basically, I don't know, like, you'll have a ton of capacity, which is lots of fun. You know, you can crunch some Ys, you can do Y cruncher 10 billion, but other than that, they're not going to be a lot of use. They're not going to be performance competitive for benching, is the thing. As Deep as saying. They will at least hold maybe a bit more value than, like, lower capacity does. Like, I don't know if you've ever tried flipping like a 2 gig DDR3 stick on eBay these days. They do not fetch much money at all. It looks like it's 550 in Memtest for these. Do I still have my tiny stickers somewhere? I have big stickers. Although, I've misplaced the big stickers as well. I had stickers. I definitely had stickers. I don't want to just write on the label. I'll just put them in the appropriate place in the box. I need to confirm it in SuperPi anyway. But yeah, should be interesting sticks, given that it's, you know, 8-layer PCB. I think the OCZ Black PCB is good. Posted pics in your server mix, says Alex. Sweet. And since it's been brought up, if anyone's unaware, I have a Discord server where I ping people where I go live, talk about what my stream plans are, and also sometimes I talk about cars in the Cars and Bikes channel. So feel free to join if you want to see what Alex just posted, or if you want to be pinged when I go live. That's roughly what it's for. Oh, wow. So it's got the EK blocks on it. Well, at least we know it's not Corsair Dominator GT. I don't think I can tell much about the PCB there. Honestly, yeah, that could be literally anything. It looks... I'm really reaching here. It looks like the PCB has a solid ground plane, and I can see that in the corner it looks like there's sort of quite a lot of small writing. So maybe it's Kingston something? But that is a huge, huge reach. Don't set any store by that at all. But it does look a little bit Kingston-y. Maybe. Possibly. But even that doesn't tell you anything, because Kingston are huge. They've used all sorts. Could be anything. Alex says, yeah, I asked him for more info, will update when he replies. Sorry for the ambiguous question with few details. No problem. I mean, my plan was just to test these sticks, which I've basically done. So I'm very happy to just like sit here chatting while Memtest runs. That's what the stream is now. Yeah. And it looks like it is 550 that those sticks will do, so... I shall put them in the appropriate place. I'd better remember to reset the system to defaults. And what I might do then is I might give the spectek stick another go. The really crappy one. Ooh, if nothing else... Do I... Yeah. I do have a file to hand, so we can find out how many PCB layers that spectek stick has if it doesn't boot. Okay. Well, I have another really strong DDR2 stick with Micron, so that's nice, and hopefully the PCB is good. I can't remember how that PCB is supposed to be for voltage scaling. It should be good for frequency. Right. Alex is also asking about the GPU in the pictures, and I'll look when I get a chance. Stick away first, and right. God, even the substrate on this looks terrible just looking at it from the edge. I mean, assuming that this still doesn't post, which, you know, I assume, I'll have to get the scope out. This webcam keeps gradually twisting. Still nothing. It's not impossible that they just can't do DDR2 800 or something. But I mean, surely it should be defaulting lower, unless it just does not respect SPDs at all. No, I'm sure I've seen it default lower. Right. Tell you what, I'm curious how this AJBG stick does. So let's reinstall that. Get the fan on. And we'll try that out, and while that's running, then I'll have something running on screen that I can do while I file off the edge of the Micron, spectek, whatever. System to come. Boop. Right. So I'm going to start by treating this like Micron. I'll give it 444 and see if it does 1000, which AJBGs sometimes can do. At some point I'll have to lose some timings, of course. But maybe not yet. Right. Where's my USB microscope? Did the stick of good DDR2 do 570? No, it didn't. Maxed out at 550 with 2.2 volts, which is still really good. It might be slightly different in SuperPi, so I'm going to have to retest it at some point. But yes, and this is now. I like this. I like this screen right here because you can see this is clearly Elpida, and it's clearly doing timings that look like Micron. A lot of people would look at this and say that has to be D9s. Nothing else can do that. But yeah, while that runs, I want to have a bit of a look at the edge of that crap stick. So take that and I'll put it on my other desk. And let's did I delete the source? Right. Yeah, let's just put it there. I guess that's probably all right. So let's have a look at those resistors first. I have no idea what's going on with these, so I find it kind of interesting. Yeah, I don't know if that's... Have they made resistors just out of the tracers? Kind of looks that way. I don't think the microscope's really revealing anything there, though. Alright, well, the other thing that I wanted to do is look at the edge of the PCB. Even like the edge of the PCB just looks nasty, doesn't it? Look at that. Yes, that does not look nice. Alright, well, take that away and I'll file it down a little bit and then we can have a look and see how many layers it has. Oh! Ah, you know what? I just realised, like, look at that. It just flexes so easily. Well, I don't want to put too much force on it. Let's do some filing. And then I'll bring it back in a moment. There might be a slight problem here that I've just thought of. Because normally, when you file down the edge of a PCB, you can see the ground planes. But this PCB doesn't have any fucking ground planes. Right, let's bring the camera back. Yeah, so like, there's no like layers of copper there to see. I mean, we've successfully filed off the edge that used to look more like that. But the problem is that, like, if you look at the top of the PCB here, like, it's just nothing. It's just traces and then nothing. Deeper says use sandpaper too. They'll probably get a bit of a nicer result, but like, it's not going to create copper where there isn't any. Right. So this is, well, that's my table. This is the edge like by the fingers. I've tried to file that down a bit, but like, I mean, deeper might be right, because like the main thing that you can see there is scratches, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I really can't tell what's going on there. They're just... There must be at least one inner layer, presumably two. I think scraping the top is the best option. I can try. So before and after scraping, and it's just fiberglass. There's no copper to speak of just there at all, sadly. The good news PCB really does flex. I'll just leave that back there. The good news is that test passed, so I mean, let's just keep binning this as if it's Micron, right? Yeah, I wonder if you could, like, I don't know, maybe you could shine a very bright light through it? That might be interesting. Let's just see if it does 520, you know, like Micron. Deeper says, I could see planes very well when I tried. What PCB was it though? Because this PCB seems pretty unique. It was a brain power PCB. Yeah, that's going to be a lot better, I suspect. The system is no longer happy with my attempts to treat it like Micron. I'm going to try shining a very bright light through it. Okay, sorry, I'm just going to interrupt because this is kind of interesting. So shining a bright light through it, we have like we've got these bright spots around the vias, which makes sense, but it's mostly still blocking the light, which is kind of interesting in itself. Anyway, I just wanted to quickly share that. I'll get back to the AJBG. It's B62, says Deeper. So I take it had 6 layers. Yeah, it's difficult to post it in stream discussion. Nice, very clean. Yeah, PCB generally is fiberglass. And then pre-preg, like a kind of resin, and copper. I am wondering if there might be more to see if I can file through a bit better, but I don't know. I might explore that off stream. Oh, this has crashed, hasn't it? Interesting.
You know what? I've been going longer than I intended to. So I realise this is a little bit sudden, but I think I might. Well, do I want to wrap it up? Do I not? I'm enjoying myself. I kind of want to keep going. No, I should wrap it up. I should wrap it up because otherwise I'm going to be going forever, and it was supposed to be a quick one. Yeah. Tell you what, let's leave the stream here, and I'll have a bit more of a look at this PCB and chat about it in the Discord server, which I will accordingly plug once more. Thank you for watching, everyone, and the next actual scheduled stream is Wednesday evening. I think it's normally sort of 7:30 UK time, but I'll post in the server about the exact time, and also, you know, feel free to follow, and, you know, Twitch will tell you when I go live. That's the thing that works. Yeah, that's it for the stream, though. Thank you for watching, and goodbye, and we'll continue this conversation about memory PCBs in the Discord server, I think. Alright,